Andy, Man City, looking at some of the other Premier League teams and how they fared, they got past Atletico Madrid. They needed Phil Foden, the Stockport Iniesta, to come on and work some magic and set up Kevin De Bruyne to win that game for them 1-0. But do you think they're going to ease through against Atletico, or is that, I don't know, Atletico Madrid were kind of thinking that's a pretty favourable result to go back to the Spanish capital and have a go at City in the second leg. So where do we see that tie? Is City going to ease through, or is it going to be pretty difficult? It's usually pretty difficult against a Diego Simeone side.
Nobody eases through Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. And I think you're exactly right. 1-0 going home. I think that's obviously you take 0-0 or a lead. I think Diego Simeone will really fancy the position that they're in. And I know they didn't create a ton in that first leg at the Etihad, but who does against Manchester City? It's all about that possession, which I think actually sets up a little bit dangerously for them in the second leg, having to go to Madrid and defend a 1-0 lead. They'll have to do just enough attacking, I think, that they might leave themselves open just a little bit versus packing it in too deep and really frustrating Atleti, who like to play that way themselves. So, it was kind of a nothing game for about an hour. And then you bring on Phil Foden and that quality and obviously going up against a little bit of fatigued players that have been on the field for 68 minutes already. And then it takes him a minute to set up the goal for Kevin De Bruyne. I think that just shows obviously the quality that he has, but also the growing influence that he has over that team, that he can come on and within a minute link up with a player like De Bruyne, the understanding and chemistry that they've built together over the course of the last couple of seasons. We're not far from being able, or from, I guess, having to have a discussion. Is Phil Foden the best player at Manchester City? I think it's really, really close to, he's closed the gap on De Bruyne and a number of other players. Yeah. So I don't think they will ease through, but I do think they will be into the semifinals and they might need a late goal, or they might need some extra time to get past Simeone's men. But I do think that this is the team on the one side that I do favor to get to the final, actually.
Nick, focusing on Liverpool, the other Premier League team, they eased past Benfica in the end 3-1. But we were watching this game. It was a lot more difficult than the scoreline made it seem. Benfica had a real go in the second half, in particular. They're probably going to get the job done, right? And I think now it's for Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea coming up with Liverpool and City playing against each other in the Premier League, then the FA Cup in between all these Champions League games. It's going to be a lot for these three Premier League giants to rotate their teams expertly, right? But do we expect, City and Liverpool to get the job done and make it to the Champions League semifinals?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the last time I saw a Liverpool game that didn't involve them switching off for 10 minutes and allowing big chances. And that's, I think, what would worry me. If I'm Man City, how I attack this game is extremely interesting, because I think they went into that Atletico Madrid game. You saw they made the 3 subs at once and it paid off immediately. Like, what is the smallest amount we can use Foden, Grealish, and Gabriel Jesus before we set them loose and make Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold think twice, right? What's the smallest amount we could use them? And they did that well. The difference now with a 1-0 lead for City, and this applies to the weekend, and I'll get back to Liverpool. There's a tie in here, believe me, is that I look at this and think Atletico Madrid's going to do nothing. So how will City react? And is there a roll-on thing here for Liverpool? Are they able to focus all their attention? Will they fall asleep at all against Benfica? Because for the first 40 minutes, it was child's play. It was the momentum bar on any stat you were watching Benfica-Liverpool was all Liverpool. Like, not even a single chance. But Liverpool, I don't know what it is, because it's not in the stats, but they just switch off for 10 minutes a game and give up gigantic chances. And that's going to be their whole season for me. Will the other team cash in? Because if they don't, Liverpool might win 4 trophies.
That's very true. It's getting down to that time of the season, gents. We're thinking about who's going to win it all, who's going to pick up these famous trophies. Andy, are you sticking with Real Madrid? That was your prediction. If we look at who are the favourites now to win the Champions League.
Yeah, I mistakenly a second ago put Manchester City on the other side of the bracket from Real Madrid. I'm still going with Real Madrid. I think they're. I think 2 weeks ago I said it has a bit of a feel of destiny team this season, and them in the Champions League. There's just a history of them coming kind of out of nowhere and winning it. But I look at the way they handled those 90 minutes against Chelsea, to go away from home, to have they had a decent amount of possession, but the chances were so skewed more than 2-1 to Chelsea, and yet they were the ones that were able to not just create those chances but finish those chances. And I think there's that ruthlessness, that maturity, the experience, all the kind of X factors that you want to put in, and just kind of writing again for the fourth or fifth time for some of these guys, the legacy that they will leave at Real Madrid. I think it's them this season. Yeah.
Nick, I'm going to go for Man City. I think they're going to get the job done this year. When you look at their side of the bracket, obviously Villarreal having that huge upset win at home against Bayern Munich. You'd think Bayern Munich are going to take care of business and make it through to the semi-finals, having the second leg at home in Bavaria. But I feel like Man City right now are just clicking through the gears quite ominously, especially in Europe. And they definitely just had that fear factor around them. As we said, they can bring on Phil Foden. They can rotate so many attacking players in and out of the lineup. Only worry with City is that they did give Atletico a couple of chances. Even though Atletico was so abject going forward, they still gave them a few opportunities there. And defensively, when is Ruben Diaz going to come back? Because I think in these big games against Bayern or maybe a final, you need someone of his stature in there to hold that City defense together. But Nick, finish us off. Which team do you think is going to win it all in the Champions League?
Yeah, I think it's Man City or Bayern. I still do. And I think the amount of – I've been swayed. This is not numbers or stats. I have heard so many people predicting Liverpool to win on Sunday that I'm thinking we might see a Man City masterclass. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think it might carry over. I just betting against this machine is really weird for me, and it just doesn't feel right. Again, feel is dangerous, but I think we might see Man City finish this season very, very strong, especially if Diaz is coming back rested, right? Not like forced back, but just like Pep eases guys back. It's systematic. And I think we might see, I just mentioned Liverpool could win 4 because I think they're the 2 best teams in the world right now. But I think Man City, can't wait to talk about this game. Let's fast forward.
Absolutely. Well, just to remind you, over at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we'll have all the latest Champions League news, how to watch information, and recaps on all the big games. So we're at the quarterfinal stage. The second legs are coming up, and it's evenly balanced across all 4 games right now. So it's going to be really intriguing to see, especially early in those second legs, which teams go for it. And I think we're set up for another good midweek of European action, gents.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.